Spook.
Yes.
Do you do any impressions?
I can do an impression of 90% of our playing list on Friday night.
Okay. Must be grand final week. Welcome to the Collingwood Rant. I'm Sly.
And I'm, fuck me, it's another injury spook.
Not another knee injury, is it?
Could be.
What do you think about our game against the Giants? Let's try and keep this succinct. Keep it down to 35 to 40 minutes.
Fuck.
Yes. Giants, 5 of the last 6 times we've played them, they've beaten us 3 of those times by under a kick.
Yeah, you sent me those stats. That's...
One other time by like 2 and a bit goals, and the other time they smashed us, which was last year. Nathan Buckley seems to have a problem with Leon Cameron at the Giants, Alistair Clarkson at Hawthorn,
that's
grand finals.
That's where it's getting at with the Giants. I mean, the Clarko one you can understand because he's obviously a spook coach, but Leon Cameron, he's just someone small with woolly hair. How can he get the better of him so many times?
Well, what did you think of the game? I mean, what we saw was
What do I think of the game, or what do I think of the games in general at the moment?
No, what do you think of our game? Because one thing with our game was it was very consistent to the way we unravelled against Richmond, and as we did in the prelim, and as we did in part of the grand final, as we did for a large part of last year.
It was a carbon copy of the prelim, which is worrying in itself.
And just before, let's just touch upon this quickly before it really break the fucking thing down. Last quarter, we kicked 1 goal 5 to GWS's 2 straight. Mm-hmm. Do you think that might have factored into the game at all?
I think just a little bit.
People can't kick 30 metres?
Oh, don't get me started. Seriously. I mean, look, maybe it's the world today. Maybe there's some sort of gravitational pull thing that we haven't been told about yet.
Mason Cox had no problem.
But these people, well, I mean, when you got to get taught how to kick over 30 metres by a big lanky yank, there's something wrong with the world. But what is it with set shots that are straight out in front? Yeah, here's a tip. Stop filming yourself taking shots from the boundary line in a bin in the grandstand and practice kicking the thing straight out in front. That could be a novelty worth exploring.
It could be. Inside 50s were...
A joke?
Yeah, beer's gone nuts. Inside 50s were Collingwood 48-37, which surprised me. So we actually dominated the inside 50s. Efficiency inside...
Yeah, but what's an inside 50 though? If the ball just goes over that painted line and then comes straight back out,
yeah.
Well, what do we care? What do we record that as a stat?
Efficiency inside
what is just called a rebound?
39.6%. Hitouts, 55 to 21.
How many of those were effective?
Centre clearances, 12
answer the question,
to 9,
don't dodge it.
Our favour. Stoppage clearances, 19 to 27, their favour. So overall, it was 31 to 36. So despite dominating the hitouts yet again, we couldn't capitalise on those and create any sort of fluency.
No, but as I said though, I think it was more GWS roving those hitouts than anything.
No,
Mummy,
you know what? I'm not.
Mummy had an easy job.
I'm not letting Grundy off anymore. I'm tired of seeing him grab the ball and then just go plonk straight into the ground. There's no one there. Look, there's no one there. Hasn't been anywhere there for 18 months.
Well, bugger me. There's grass.
You know, and I have to blame. I mean, Pendlebury. You've played 300 games. You can't pull Grundy aside and say, "I'm going over there." Tap it that way. Grundy thumped it once, went about 15 metres. We actually created some play out of that. The only time he did it. In the last 2 minutes, when we needed to score desperately, Grundy was still going tap down, and just killing time off the clock. Fucking hell, it is not that hard to just tap to a fucking teammate or to try.
Just tap it in.
You know, and that's been going on for like 2 years. So I'm sick of that. That whoever's responsible for the midfield ruckman communication, you're fucking it up.
Is this a new segment? I'm sick of this.
I'm sick of fucking everything. It just really frustrates me that, you know, people are running around going, oh yeah, Grundy is great. He's a brilliant ruck rover. He took a lot of good marks around the ground, which I'm really pleased to see. As a tap ruckman, despite the fact that he constantly gets the numbers, they do not translate into clearances. And I probably wouldn't mind that if they weren't translating into opposition clearances. So if they were just dead balls, fine. But this goes to the midfield. Pendlebury was good. Adams willed us back into it. Side bottom, was he out there the first half?
Apparently.
I mean, he's an elite midfielder, I'm continually told.
He's elite at getting tagged out of games.
Well, and, it was embarrassing that, again, hey, he's getting tagged and we're just sitting there watching it happen. I didn't know who the other midfielders are. Who are the other midfielders? Elliot was in there for a bit. The Goey, the $1 million man.
He might want to turn up one week.
He might want to refund it.
He's not the $1 million man though yet, is he?
No.
But he was the potential $1 million man.
He should be. We should be.
He's a tuppence halfpenny man at the moment.
We should be getting discounts.
But we're getting discounts on output.
This is my problem with the side. So I'm going to go through what I believe the issues.
This is your problem with the side.
Yeah. This is our problem.
Can
with
you
the
say
side.
problems?
Problem. No, I've only got one little 6. If you look at the player stats, Adams. I'm just going to go through some of the midfielders. Adams got 17 and some of the runners. So Adams got 17, Crisp got 17, Wills got 16, Callum Brown got 13, Sidebottom got 12, Noble got 11, Elliott got 11, Stevenson 10, DeGoey 10, Tom Phillips 9, Huskin Elliott 8, Chris Main 8, free kicks and 5 handballs, and one was a fucking shot from 30 metres out, which missed.
How'd that go?
Tyler Brown 8, Josh Dacos 7. You cannot afford to carry this many people who are getting low possessions.
No, when you consider that today's game is just one big rugby scrum that's running around the ground and they kick sideways a lot,
Yep.
How could you be so low on numbers? Even inside of that, you should be probably averaging about 30 sideways kicks.
Well, this is one of the things, so we'll start with my little list. Balance of the side's not right.
I saw him lean to the left a bit.
They should have leant a lot further. You're carrying the likes of Wills, Noble, Callum and Tyler Brown, Josh Dacos. That's 5 guys who are still very relatively new to football.
Yep.
That's on top of guys like Stevenson and Phillips.
The 1/4 wonder.
Yeah. And Mason Cox. So you've got 8 players there, 5 to 8 players there who are still relatively inexperienced and low position returners. I know, you get guys like Raul at Gold Coast who might be
Super freaks.
phenomenal, yeah. But our players aren't tracking like that. And that's on top of guys like Chris Main, only returning 8 possessions. This is a guy who's been around for about 17 years. Sidebottom, returning 12 possessions. Crisp got 17, which is sort of on the right side, but you have a lot of guys who are getting, 5 to 15 possessions. You cannot carry that many people who are limited in terms of their return to the game. Now, you can excuse some of them like Dacos and the Browns, but Buckley has to work out which of these guys am I going to forgive if they have a quiet week, because I can't afford to have 9 of them in one game.
No.
And that's one of the big problems. The balance is massively askewed at the moment. Josh Dacos, Callum Brown and Tyler Brown are still physically pretty immature. Tyler's really still pretty thin. He got out-bustled relatively easy. Mm-hmm. It's great to get experience into players, but you also got to think, hey, we need to be winning, and B, we need to create a conducive environment where young guys can actually thrive rather than they're struggling. So I think if you look at the list overall, and if you look at what's happened in the last few weeks and probably last year also, the playing list isn't as good as we rate it. No, not me and you, because we've never rated. Playing list isn't as good as we think. Our best player remains Pendlebury at 32.
32?
Yeah,
He's a spring chicken.
Yeah, or maybe if it was at Hawthorn. Who's our next best player? People will say Grundy, probably Darcy Moore, probably those two. Who else? Taylor Adams. And people will keep hitting up Sidebottom. You cannot rate Sidebottom a great player if he's going to continually disappear when he's tagged out of the games. So if you look at that top end of the list, there is not enough quality at that top end who consistently have output that's going to carry the team and bring others along for the ride.
No.
And that's when you're going to get these guys like Josh Dacos, like last week, when they were up and running, then all these younger guys are going to have a lot easier time of getting position, and they're going to learn their craft a lot better and a lot easier. We're really struggling. You have Elliott, who has not really done a lot this year. Stevenson, who's only played the 2 games, but consistently throughout his career, he's tended to start brightly. And
he's
then
had
fade.
2 brilliant quarters.
Yeah. The Goey, don't know what's happening with him this year.
No, it's not a worry yet. He just wants to pull the finger out.
But he wouldn't be the only one. But the list overall, there are a lot of, and this is, I've been calling the side a Hafey side for a number of weeks now.
Oh, it's a bit unfair. They haven't lost a grand final yet.
They
Well,
did
actually, no.
2 years ago.
Yeah, sorry.
So for younger viewers,
I
listeners,
thought I'd erased that.
Yeah, Tom Hafey was coached 77 to 81. He carried a lot of workman-like sides in the grand finals and they fell short, and people say it's because of the lack of quality and skill. It's what this side has. Outside of Pendlebury and Moore, how much skill is in that side?
Oh, there's skill there. It's just not consistently there.
Yeah, well, it's one of these things, though, where you look at it and think, who is going to stand up and be counted when the game's out there to be won? And too often it's like, okay, who are you relying on? Tom Phillips and Myercheck to get 2 fluky goals each?
The thing is, though, I guess when they're up and running, as you said before, things do click well. The way the game's being played now with that big glob of congestion that just follows the ball around the ground, it does deny us that ability to run. And that used to be the way that sides would shut us down too. If we look like we're going to go and do something that day, they'd swamp the living bejesus out of us. And it just seems the nature of the game now, the way it's being played. It's like a basketball game essentially, where here goes the ball and everyone follows it up here and then follows it back down there and rinse, repeat, and hopefully somewhere amongst all this there's a score. But you see it often now, is even when they do clear the congestion, there's just nothing to kick forward to. And so you dilly-dally, and then all you're doing is allowing all these numbers to go up forward of the ball, and it's just a rinse-repeat thing. But that's hard to watch, and it must be hard to play in.
But the Bulldogs killed the game. We got our running game going, and we looked really good.
For patches.
The Bulldogs game were consistently throughout the game. The St Kilda game was really the first half, and then they just went in the cruise mode. Richmond, 1 quarter. The GWS game, I'd argue there was no quarter. We at times looked okay. But that's one of the issues is we get shut down by, the defensive mindset. And then they try and either kick their way through it, and they don't have the skill to maintain that, like a Hawthorn did in their heyday 3-4 years ago. Or they just grow stagnant, which allows the opposition to really press. And we don't have the guys, this is where you'd really want the Treloar or someone like that, who just say, just give me the ball, I'll run and try and break a line. Taylor Adams does that. He's the only one I know who consistently tries to break the line. But everyone else plays this defensive mindset, and then it becomes this chicken and the egg situation. Is like, are we defensive because they're pressing, or are they pressing because we're defensive? And then it just becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy of, no, this is the way it's going to be. And then they bank on the long chaos kick to guys like, Cox and Myercheck expecting the miracle mark. And one of the weaknesses we've had for, 3-4 years is we don't have front and square crumbing forwards. We're just going to rove that ball. So it just gets locked up in the congestion, and either, as GWS's midfield did, they'll just carry it away, or we just reset there and then just try the same shit. And it must be exhausting for the players to keep playing this rugby battering style game.
It's exhausting for us, the viewer.
Oh, it's really... I really struggle. You might find this hard to believe, but I didn't go to the game last week. But
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. Halfway through, at half time, I was really just sort of thinking, do I really want to go back and watch this? It's just got heartbreak written all over it, and I could probably live with that if it was an entertaining game. And when I say entertaining, it doesn't need to be high scoring, but it really was this hideous game to watch. It was like looking at a grand final.
Oh, you look at, the Geelong game on the weekend, I saw a stat today that there was something like 300 possessions and a half of football and only 4 goals scored.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. This can't be sustainable moving forward. According to Gill, everything's wonderful. He'd know. He's the big man. We're just the mug punter.
But, all right, so this goes to another issue that I have. The coaching staff, coaching brains trust, what is it, 26, 27 of them now?
Not anymore.
24 of them now? 23? All right, so GWS, as everyone knew, brought Mumford back to compete with Grundy, to bully him.
That's a shock.
Yep, no one was shocked.
Why would you do something that keeps working?
Yeah. All right, so they did that. They put Matt DeBoer, I don't know how you pronounce that, sorry, DeBoer, on still side bottom, and he totally tagged him out of the game.
You didn't think we'd see that one coming, do you?
Well, no, I guess not.
You wouldn't send someone in to thump the tagger, would you, just to free things up?
Or just move the guy getting tagged.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't think making a change.
Zach Williams kept setting up counter-attack from...
He killed us.
Yep, from half-back.
And if he hadn't gone off injured, we would have lost by about 10 goals.
Oh, I think we would have too. Toby Green had the better of Braden Maynard.
He had a shocker.
Now, you have 4 things GWS have done there, which lends themselves to contributing to them winning. And our counters were nothing.
Just stick to those structure, boys. If you keep doing the good things will come.
And this is something where I would really wish Buckley was lateral, where I told you about this game I saw, I don't know, 30 years ago, Geelong versus Carlton.
What relevance does that have now? You can't go back and rewrite history.
So it reminds me of a game I saw like 30 years ago, Geelong, Carlton. I went to a game with a Geelong friend. And Geelong started Bairstow and Couch with their prime midfielders. Started them on the bench. This is Malcolm Blight was coaching. And Carlton had taggers assigned. And as the ball was about to be balled up or bounced, the Carlton taggers were looking around like going, what do we do? The two guys who were meant to be on aren't even on the ground. What do we do? And it totally threw Carlton into disarray for about 5 minutes. And then Bairstow and Couch came on when Carlton were reshuffling, and then those tags had been lost, and Carlton was trying to reset, but Geelong had then got the jump on them. Why not, just for the hell of it, why not start Cox in the ruck for the first 7 minutes of the game? Just totally throw him off.
Not be predictable.
Yeah, say to Cox, hey, Mumford's going to be very physical, so take his best shots, run him around a bit, and then we'll get Grundy onto him once you've run him into the ground a little bit, and then Grundy will be the fitter, primer mover. With side bottom, even if it's not moving him up forward, why not just say, go stand on the wing, just stand totally out of the fucking game.
Look at that seagull.
Yeah, just go watch it. I remember actually Matthews did that with Craig Starcevich in 91 against St Kilda, where St Kilda had Ken Sheldon as coach, and he was a really big tagger. I can't remember who the player was, but he tagged Starcevich, and Starcevich stood in the pocket pretty much the whole game and took that player totally out of the game.
Yep.
Zach Williams, you wouldn't actually think about tagging him. You wouldn't think about just saying to Tom Phillips, whoever, look, just sacrifice your game. I mean, you only give us 8 possessions anyway, so we're not losing a lot. Just sacrifice your game and take him out of it. Just sit on him like a tag. And finally, Maynard, Green's a great player. There's no shame in him getting the better of you. Again, why not mix it up? Why not put Maynard in the middle and say to someone like Hoskin Elliott, who's having a bad game, your man's now Toby Green.
You're not going to do any worse.
Yeah. And us changing it, by changing it up, you're actually going to force them to rethink what they're doing. And, you force them to rethink, they're going to be reactive. But what you're doing is letting them take their plans, letting them be proactive, and just let that be the narrative throughout the game. And you don't change anything.
That's it. I mean, those tactics were pretty blatantly formulated to counter, and you've let them go for the whole game, thinking, what, it was just going to come good?
Well, as you said, Zach Williams, if he didn't do his hamstring, they would have won by, the only reason we got back in the game is because Davis and Williams...
Yeah, I was going to say, Davis is the other one that once he went off, he came back on though, didn't he? Or he had a hamstring strain or something. But yeah, once because he was spoiling Cox left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
and he was going to keep doing that all night. That wasn't going to stop until he went off, and that sort of it allowed us to get back into the game.
And again, that's the sort of thing with Cox.
And they're 2 players down too at this point for the rest of the game.
But that's
we should have won on that alone.
And that's the thing, with Cox, if Davis is presumably their best key defender, just tell Cox, go stand in the goal square. Do not move from the goal square. Keep him with you, and if Davis runs off you, then we'll just go over the top to you.
Something we cited on the night, but there was an instance where the ball was in GWS's forward half, I think in the last quarter, and all of a sudden Coxie there was on the last line of defence, and he was trying to scramble for the ball on the ground. They ended up goaling out of it. And you're sitting there going, seriously, what the fuck are you doing there, mate? Now, you've either taken your opponent up there or your opponent's dragged you up there. It just doesn't make sense that you went up there in that instance. It probably makes sense, but it ended up costing us a goal, and it's, what do we lose by? It's baffling sometimes where you see so many of these wrong type of players in the wrong spots at the right time for the opposition.
But I would argue that because we have such a hayfy side, you got a lot of wrong players in the wrong positions. And again, Main came to Collingwood as a forward. Now we're using him as a defensive wingman, and everyone's going, oh, that's brilliant. We brought him in, and we totally changed him, and all this sort of stuff. It's like, all right, so you've taken a guy who's played his entire career as a forward, and you're celebrating because now he's serviceable as a defensive wingman. Wouldn't you rather have a actual wingman? Main's really great defensively, but offensively he's always struggled. Tom Phillips is a half forward. Josh Thomas is a half forward. I know you have to change players around, and sometimes it works. Mychek has gone from defence to forward line. He's been really good. But it's like we constantly are shuffling players saying, how do we make this work? We don't have better options. How do we fit these players, these square players, into round holes and actually form something that's cohesive and purposeful? And in games like this, where the pressure's on and the system unravels, those parts start getting exposed. You start looking at them and going, You're really good as part of a unit, but now when you need to win that one-on-one, when the unit's not working well, you're really struggling because you are not the best option probably for our list, but you are not the best option in terms of that sort of play that we need in that position. And there's too many of those not quite right players in our side. And the one I'll go back to, which I know a lot of people disagree with me, how you still have Darcy Moore at fullback, I know he's brilliant, but this is a guy who could be a match winner up forward and introduce some unpredictability. How he's still at fullback is just such a typical Buckley defensive move. He's like, oh yes, we're going to have salivating because him and Howe down back, we're going to have these two great offensive defenders who are going to intercept marks and all this sort of shit. This would be like Leon Cameron saying, you know what, Jeremy Cameron up forward, fuck it, I'm playing him as our fullback from now on. Sydney saying, I'm going to play Buddy Franklin at fullback. You got this player who could totally make your forward line work, and you're using him down back. And that's, again, why? Because we haven't recruited the key positioner for 28 years.
I'll go Will Kelly.
But the two guys they've got in Dunn as a 30-year-old from Melbourne. They've got in Roughhead as a 28-year-old. Prior to them, the only guys they've got Will Kelly, and then a couple of years before that, Sam McClarty. And then there's just this big gap of nothing between those players and Ben Reid and Nathan Brown. It's like, what? Why haven't you gone after those key positions? Did you bank on Ben Reid's body coming right?
Yes, I think there was that belief that the Buckley had that the mosquito fleet was the answer to everything. But like when Footscray won the flag without a recognisable key forward except for Tom Boyd.
And where'd he go in the draft?
Number one.
So, and this is what I always say. You look at the premiers from the last 6-7 years. So you go West Coast. They're two key forwards. Josh Kennedy, pick 5. Darling was about pick 24, don't know off the top of my head. Hawthorn had Franklin, Roughhead and Gunston, all top picks. Bulldogs had Boyd, Richmond, Rewalt and Tom Lynch, top picks. Who have we had as our key forwards? Coxie, international rookie, pick 184.
Mio.
We rookie him as a defender, and now he's a key position forward.
And he's, 28 years old?
He's 27. And, I love both of them, but you know what? If you want to win these things, you need to invest in quality. And you go back to our 2010 side, Cloak was a father's son, but he would have been a top 10 pick. If you look at our key defenders, Reid and Brown, Reid was pick 8, Brown was pick 10. You're going to get back what you invest in. And I know there's always surprises like McGovern, I think, was a rookie pick for West Coast, but you can't bank on these money ball solutions providing absolute guns because what are they? They're like 1 in a million shots. So, Collingwood, after you pick about 999,996 more, you might...
And we've tried them all.
We've tried them. And this is one of the problems of the list management since the succession plan. For whatever reason, however it worked, a lot of it's injuries. They picked up players, like Scharenberg and Freeman and Broomhead and Ramsey and Kennedy who didn't work out. And they only really had very limited hits like Brodie Grundy. They've had this big hole open up in their list management, and they've had to go left field to try and solve it. And if you go back a few years ago, remember they took Jack Frost, Kyle Martin, Sam Dwyer as rookies, and they all became regulars in the side, Kyle Martin didn't, but he was always sort of knocking on the door. But that was we've got such a hole in this list management, we are just throwing the net out to find anyone who could possibly play so we can field the competitive side.
There's a lot. List management's one thing, but do you think it's the absolute dearth of talent out there too that makes this hard to achieve? I think it's a combination of both. Richmond, they took the players they needed to take. Everyone else is doing it. We just haven't had access to the top picks. But, and this is not a criticism of Adam Treloar, you spent 2 pick 7s on Adam Treloar, 2 first rounders, they became 2 pick 7s. You spent 2 first rounders on Dane Beams. Yeah. Prioritise what you need. I've always said, the guy they should have went after 2 years ago is May. He might not have worked out for Melbourne in the first year they got him, but for what we needed a key positioner. And they should have taken May, and they should have went after Roughhead. And then you could have put more up front then.
Yeah, and you had Lyndon Nunn possibly coming back, and it shouldn't have been this case of where they were saying, oh, well, we've got Reid and we're going to get his body right, and we've got Dunn and we're going to get his body right.
Should have just taken him away and put him behind a curtain.
Well, Dunn had just done his knee, and he's 31, so you can't bank on him coming back to...
I think we will be soon.
Yeah. But he was really good in that 2018 that we had him. Yeah,
Definitely.
But he seemed to me like they recruited him as like a break glass in case of emergency, and he came into the side and he surprised everyone. He was great, but then he did his knee, and at that point they should have been thinking, well, he's 30 something, he's doing a knee. It takes like a year extra to really recover from a knee, so we need better options. Ben Reed's had injury problems for 4 or 5 years, so why?
That's being generous.
Yeah, well, this is why would you bank on these guys coming good? And then, you have just the fucking injury cloud that sits over the Lexus Centre anyway. Surely you should be looking at them and going, hey, we've got the flanker thing covered. We've got flankers up to yin yang.
That's it.
I'm up to my neck in motives. Up to the neck in flankers. We need some key positioners. And they still don't have them. And the guys they got are like 30 and 32. And now bloody Jeremy Howe's injured his knee. So you don't know how that's going to affect him. So I just think the list management has been a little bit irresponsible in the way they've created that list. I think they should have targeted some key positioners. I think the Beans trade, I've always said I didn't agree with taking him for 2 first-rounders. I would have taken him cheaply. I wouldn't have taken him for 2 first-rounders. Once it came up to 2 first-rounders, then they should have started saying, let's go look at some key positioners. People will say, oh, well, they targeted Roughhead. Great. That solves 1 out of 4 holes you got in that side. You still need more players. And they didn't do it. And this is where we're at now. You got a really competitive side. Despite how defensive and reactive Buckley is as a coach, he obviously must be doing something right to get him up to this competitive level. But my greatest fear here is we're just going to see a typical Tom Hafey result of you're going to get so far, but you're going to fall short, as you did in 2018, because when push comes to shove, you don't have... It's not just a case of gun physical talent. It's guys who have a gun mentality to say, I'm going to do what's required to win. And Nick Maxwell was a rookie pick, but he had that mentality of, I'm going to do what's required to win. That's what we lacked in 2018, aside from, maybe DeGoey and Adams. The rest of the players just went into that reactive, we don't want to lose it sort of thing. And that's what you got right now. You got a really reactive defensive team. They fail to adapt when they're challenged. The Grundy thing of tapping it straight down, to me, is deplorable. And it's not a criticism specifically of Grundy. It's a criticism of everyone at the fucking club, from Grundy to the midfielders, to Pendlebury as a midfielder who's played 300 games, to the coaching staff. I don't know who's in charge of the midfield anymore. You got 2 of the premier midfielders of the new millennium in Buckley and Robert Harvey in the coaching box, and no one can sort of just have a word and say, hey, can we work out some sort of relationship where you try and tap it to where they're going rather than just put it down and they're standing on the outer waiting. I don't know what the fuck they do. I don't know why they're in there.
Yep, can't disagree with any of that.
Anyway, so any final thoughts on that?
No, other than the one thing that I tried to get my head around looking at a positive, even though it was a scrappy sort of game that you won't be going to name a game to buy on the weekend, we did only lose by 2 points. We're still up the top end of the ladder, although I think we dropped to 5th by the end of the round. It's not completely bleak. There's still a salvageable season there. We're 1 loss, 1 draw, 2 wins. You probably would have taken that at the start of the year, but you wouldn't have taken it. All right, so we should have.
No, I'm kidding. No.
I can't believe how hard the taskmaster you are these days.
No, my problem isn't we only lost by 2 points, but my problem is you've had 4 games against the 2 young sides. You've dominated them against the grand finalists from last year. They've dominated you, and you've unravelled, and then you've had the reason you've gotten as close as you have isn't because of some superior game plan or talent. It's just ferocity and intensity and desperation. And it's how far is that going to carry you? So my concern is, hey, who we play this week? Essendon? I don't know what Essendon. But when you get to the point of, okay, we'll be flat track bullies, we'll smash the young sides, but when we're up against the good side, it's just going to unravel again.
Yeah.
And that's my problem. It's not great, we just lost. And the other thing too is I've always believed when you're building a premiership side, you know who you're working with in terms of talent, because you're cultivating them and all that. But to really jump up the ladder, you need an injection of quality from 2 unexpected sources. Now, if you go back to 2010, that was Luke Ball and Darren Jolly. Mm-hmm. Obviously they would have been looking at them as trade properties, but in terms of our list management, they came from outside and went into the side. You go back to 1990, it was Tony Francis and Scott Russell. If you look at 2018, where is that improvement coming from? Why are we going to be better? So you have Darcy Moore there. Okay, that's one, I guess. Jamie Ewart hasn't added a level of quality to that side where you say he's going to be a match winner. And then you get guys like Sidebottom and Pendlebury who are a little bit older than they were back then. So where's the improvement coming from? We're banking on guys like Tyler Brown, Callum Brown, Josh Dacos to really inject a level of ability that's not commensurate with their age. They're only like, 20 or something. So where's that improvement coming from? Because I don't see where we're going to get better. And you can say it's natural progression of pumping games into youngsters, but who are the youngsters? These guys like Brown again, like they're still really, really early stages of their career. Tom Phillips isn't going to get better than what he is, I imagine.
No.
Treloar, I mean, he was in that side, but he's not going to, he's not adding anything that wasn't already there. So where's it coming from?
It's Quaynor. Maybe it's all just down to Quaynor. And
could,
Rantel.
Well, it could be Quaynor or Rantel and all that, but they would really need to inject quite a bit that we didn't expect. And you go back to like 2006. I mean, we didn't make a flag, but in 2002, 2003, we lost grand finals. 2004, 2005, we had really bad years. 2006, we sprang back up the ladder. And part of the reason we sprang up the ladder is Dane Swan just came out of nowhere and became like a premier midfielder, and he was really good. And the other two who had really good seasons, but Ben Johnson was one of them. He just started providing all this great run-off half-back. And it was like, okay, didn't see that coming. We knew about all the others, like Buckley and all that. We knew they were a little bit older, Burns, Rocker and all that. So those two guys injected some quality into that side that galvanised them and propelled them up the ladder. And I just don't see where that's coming from at the moment. And I don't even see where that's going to come from in the next 2 years, which isn't going to be mitigated by the fact that you are going to have retirements to Pendlebury and Sidebottom and
Parrish thought he's got another 10 years in him.
Well, he might, but there's
he's going to make Burgoyne look like an old man.
Well, you got players there like Roughhead and Howe and all those sort of guys who even Cox is like 27, 28.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a drop off at some point, and I think you got some areas covered, but the key position I think is a massive issue. Any final thoughts about that?
No. Sad to lose Howe more than anything. I think that's the one thing I think is that you can hack losing, and you can't.
No, I can't.
But when you lose someone that is going to be a linchpin for your season, or you plan on being a linchpin for the season, to be taken away, it's quite a deflating experience. And I think out there in the interwebs and the masses, there's a bit of a whole everybody's stomach dropped a little bit because you're thinking, oh, that's it then.
Let me ask you something. I'm not being facetious. So Howe and Hopper went for the ball. Hopper takes Howe's legs out, causes serious injury. Wasn't that the fucking reason they brought in this rule that you can't dive for the ball and take a player's legs out? And it wasn't a free kick.
Oh, no, it wasn't a 50-50 thing, though, I think.
Oh, it is a 50... No, but they're all... A lot of them are 50-50.
Howe knew what he was running into.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that's why they actually brought in that rule. They pay a lot of spurious ones where you go, it's not even 50-50. I mean, the guy going for the ball's got 99% ownership of it, but he's taken another player's legs out. This guy's actually taken out... And not blaming Hopper for anything malicious... But I'm saying that rule was brought in specifically to defend the players' legs. And there's a lot of stupid rules in the AFL, but I'm saying within the letter of the law, that to me should have been a free kick then to Howe, because you've taken his legs out and you've actually injured him seriously. So I'm just, on the technicality of that law, they should have pinged him and should have sent him off. Now, we will be back with the match preview.
Oh, goody.
Yeah. We're back with the match preview.
Good.
All right, so Howe's out.
Yep.
Essendon, no merit, who got 1 week for hitting Silvani. Do you think he should have went for 1 week?
Yes.
I think he should have gone for 6.
I think if you go in... Look, I know Silvani came out today and said it's a shame that he was rubbed out. There wasn't much in it. Just managed to hit a sweet spot. None of that's relevant. He come up and he hit you. They want to take this out of the game. They've got to treat these seriously and rub them out.
100% agree. I mean,
there's no need for it.
It's a swing, so that's only a strike. It's not like a bump that's gone wrong.
It's at the start of the game too.
Yep.
Let's face facts. Silvani's not one of your more influential players.
So you're saying it helped Carlton?
So it's the sense of it was just stupid.
Yeah. No, look, I agree. This is why I really hate this sort of thing, like when players have like injured hands and then the opposition's hitting them. And people go, well, if you're out there, you're fair game. But it's like, you're still striking someone. That's not meant to be part of the game. So
it's not a great look.
For me, like, Merritt doing that, and I know he's trying to off-balance him and all that, regardless, it's still a strike. That's nothing but a strike.
Yeah, no, I think we should Completely rub it out of the game.
All right, so
No, I just noticed you've got a copy there of Biff Bumps and Brawlers. We should watch that after this.
I can't be bothered putting in the PS1. So we have the VFL report. Will Kelly
Oh,
played.
yep, another. We've got another batch of premiership heroes
Yep.
in the making.
So Will Kelly played.
How good are these Collingwood scratch match reviews?
Yeah.
Oh, does anyone put a foot wrong on them?
No, I think it must be 396 percentage and undefeated.
Oh, it's amazing.
Will Kelly played as a key forward all day and was one of our better players. 3 weeks in a row, and that. To me, it's interesting that Kelly came as a centre half back and he's playing key forward. So that suggests to me that
He's still sticky the sticky insect though.
Yeah. Darcy Cameron came back from the senior team. Played
Good
key
attitude.
forward
They have
background.
good attitude.
Yeah, he had a really good
I think
game.
it's always
He had a lot
good
of-
when you get dropped that you come out with a good attitude.
And had a really good game. He had a lot of shots at goal. Unfortunately, he missed a few.
Well, then he should be playing in the seniors. What's he doing wasting his goal-kicking prowess down there?
Treloar leadership was super throughout the game, helping the younger mids,
His leadership was super.
and played really well. His clearance stuff was good again. He found plenty of the ball. You'd hope so. Lyndon Dunn showed plenty of leadership down back. Well, we had leadership all over the place.
That's it.
His voice and communication throughout the game. His voice and communication. So if you took out the voice there, his communication. How do you think he would have communicated?
Probably sign language.
Walkie talkies? I don't know. It's
But
actually
it'd be like those
smoke
military,
signals.
the soldiers,
Right.
those things where they go.
Would have been telepathy. He would have had like a big head.
We could have used signs, like physical signs.
His aerial stuff has been good. He hasn't really lost the one-on-one. What's that mean? He hasn't really lost the
Oh,
one-on-one.
he never lost it.
He's coming off his man and helping out the small defenders in the air. Why are the small defenders not helping here? I don't know what that was. And
Maybe it's like that movie, My Bodyguard.
and he's got a really
I'll
good,
help you, Chauncey.
and he's got a really good block of form to get. You've been back 3 weeks. How's this a really good block of form? I don't know.
What a player. What a player. What's he doing languishing down there?
I don't know. Matt Scharenberg was really good in the back line for the whole game.
Do we still talk about him?
Yeah. Back half is really good. He's added some creative flair to his game, and he's really starting to open up the game for us with some of his ball use, particularly through the corridor. I don't know. I didn't know that they knew what the corridor is at the club.
I think it's something you avoided.
Max Lynch did really well in the ruck again.
Oh, good on him. Good on him. Did he have good attitude? How was his leadership?
His ruck craft has been really good.
Did he go down and help the little rucks?
Jack Magden
Oh, now we're talking.
came back to our team after being a carryover emergency for the AFL side last week and
Oh, it's good to see he's on the cusp.
brought with him a sensational attitude.
Oh, fantastic. It's so important to have a good attitude.
Played for
You know what, boys? I was dropped on the weekend, but by golly, we're going to go out there and win it for the Gipper.
I was this close to the seniors. I was sitting next to Grundy as another this close. Played 3 quarters in the back line as a third tall and then spent a quarter as an inside mid. Jack Magden as inside
Is
mid.
there anything this man cannot do?
He was really sound defensively.
How's his voice? How's his
He's
communication?
been looking to add some more offense to his game, and he really did that today.
That's fantastic.
Well done, Jack.
With how gone now, I've got nothing to worry about with Madge coming back in.
Oh, Madge can just cover for Howe and Sidebot and at the
I think
same
he can
time.
do it all.
Yeah.
Can we clone him? Is it legal to clone them yet?
I don't see any regulations in the
I think
AFL
it's
that say you can't.
I think a full team of Madges would scare the living
They-
Jesus out of every other opposition side.
Yeah, and us too.
Here comes the Madge.
Braden Sire.
I remember him. Yeah.
His initials are BS. He was really good, particularly when it came to the clearance numbers. Him and Max Lynch had formed a great relationship around the stoppages. The centre bounces in particular. It's like, okay. Spent a bit of time up forward, but had most of the impact in the midfield.
Oh, well, that's good.
Josh Thomas was a carryover.
Joyish Thomas.
Josh Thomas was... fuck, whatever his name is. JT was a carryover emergency for the seniors, which some people have been up in arms about. It's like, why give him the privilege of being an emergency? I look at it as because he's a sacrificial one. If he doesn't play, who gives a fuck? If he plays, we put him in for a week and we drop him. You'd have to think Treloar comes in this week.
Oh yeah, Treloar for Wills is my bet.
I hope it's Treloar for one of the Browns.
No, I think Wills because we don't need anyone in the guts. And then look, Wills didn't have a great game, but I still think
He wasn't the only one.
Bucks being who he is, will bring Treloar in for Wills and give everyone else another chance.
I'll say this. I was talking to someone during the game and they were bagging Cox for dropping the ball. And he did drop it quite a bit.
That would have been a full-time job.
Yeah. But it's like, there's quite a few players who you expect more from. Like, still side bottom. before you get to criticising Cox. It always frustrates me, like, when one guy's scapegoat, it's like, oh, fuck, he was shit. It's like, well, there's about 16 other players who were shit with him. So, anyway, so you think Treloar for Wills?
Oh, definitely. It'd be a Monty.
I think it'll be Treloar and Sire for Wills and Tyler.
Yeah, look, I mean, I was being a little bit flippant, but I think that would be a smart move.
And who do you think they'll play for Howie?
Oh, Madge.
Yeah. I mean, there's the scuttlebutt because he hasn't been selected. Apparently, Schoenberg is on the outer with Buckley.
Oh, they have a falling out?
They had a falling out.
He said he wasn't a good communicator. He didn't come to these games with the right attitude.
Well, that is, in all these reports, I haven't seen anything about his attitude.
How long's he been on the list now, Shaz? Six years?
Oh, he's been on the list as long as Taylor Adams.
I mean, he spent 3/4 of his football life in
traction,
in some sort of brace. But I would have thought he's the logical one. He reads the ball coming in quite well. He can be an effective kick.
He's got some games under his belt.
Did he play many towards the end of last year?
Yeah, he did until Greenwood knocked him out in the game against Essendon.
Yeah. You'd think logically he should be the one, but we all know it's going to be Madge.
I think it should be a Schoenberg. If he's not being selected, what I'm reading between the lines of them saying he's adding creative flair and ball use and all that sort of shit is they want him to be a lot more attacking with his ball use. The Irishman, Mark Keane...
He's quite highly regarded, isn't he?
Yeah, he's another one that's sort of in the list.
We don't hear from anyone else, though, like the newbies or Atu or anyone like that, or Quain, or is he still actually playing? He doesn't get a...
Well, he wasn't in the list.
He doesn't get a feature. He must have had a bad attitude.
Lyndon Dunn's the other one they could play. They could play...
Is he? How many weeks he played? 3?
Three in 2 years, so he's right.
Did he had the full pre-season? Was he back to full training right from the outset?
I believe he was, because his voice of communication throughout the game really sets the scene for the group.
Maybe we listen quietly, we can hear him. Yeah, but that would mean you're stacking quite heavily the back line with Talls. Who have Essendon? We'd have
Danaher's
to have...
out.
Danaher comes back for this game,
He's out.
kicks 6, and then disappears for the rest of the year. That's the way it usually works.
Yeah. No, so Danaher isn't playing, and then they have, I don't know, who do they have? Kale Hooker?
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hooker.
I don't think we need too many Talls down back for this game, do we?
But if they play more, they might think he has the speed and the mobility to play that third man up defensive role. I don't know. I mean, maybe the thing is they'll play more and go, well, if we're too tall, we'll throw him up forward.
Anyone else in the wings? Greenwood's, he's back to full training?
Well,
Langers is back to full training, I believe.
Yeah, well, they haven't played.
But he won't.
They haven't played scratch matches.
Won't come in.
I don't
Varks? Do you think Varks? I think we talked about it a little bit too. Is I don't see this season as being one of solid consistency with sides. You're going to have to rotate guys in and out because of the fucking strange circumstances of this. I don't know whether we'd do it this early in the season, but I wouldn't be surprised if you had 3 or 4 changes this week. And that's usually on the back of such a close loss. You tend not to, or Buckley tends not to change the structure of these sides all that often. So those 2, maybe 3, well, one's a forced change. The other 2 likely changes could be more than well enough, which means that a couple of kids still get another crack.
So I don't mind bringing back some senior players because then you need a more physical input. Did you notice in the game against the GWS how many times they would just bump into our players' backs? Like there'd be a stoppage and then the guy would run past and hit someone in the back as he was running. And they just did it constantly. It was like they just wanted to know, hey, we're here, you're a young side, we're going to hit you, we're a lot bigger than you. And so I don't know how we've come out of this game physically, if we're going to be sore or anything like that. I don't mind bringing in experienced players, although people will say, oh, you're not really playing for the future. It's like, well, we are, because I want a better framework around the young guys that we do have.
It's actually a point that we could have made a lot earlier on, or I could have made it.
We can edit it in.
One of the things I spoke about post the game is that you really sort of got a sense that, especially around the green space, is that we really lacked an enforcer in that game. That, look, if you had taken Maynard off Green and put, say, Greenwood was around at the time, I don't think Toby would have had the same influence, because he probably would have been driven into the ground a few times and made to remember that there's a defender on him. I still think we need 1 or 2 of those grunt players, the ones that are going to do the hard hits and exactly what you said, just remind the opposition that there's someone out there that's not going to be just timidly dancing around the ball.
Yeah. Well,
And Varks, I think, is one of those guys that could potentially do that. He plays angry at times.
Well, if Varco had played, he would have been a good matchup for Green in terms of just having the pace. He does have he does have that sort of gritty side to his game. You know, he does play angry, as you said. He does run plays in the ground, that sort of stuff. So he would have been a good alternative. I just think right now, with the 5 youngsters on top of, like, as I said, Stevenson and Cox and all that, the side's too imbalanced towards youth, and you can't afford to have so many players who are returning potentially 10 to 15 possessions only.
No, that's not good enough.
You know, you need, and I know Varco's not a big possession winner and stuff like that, but at least those guys physically are able to compete inside the packs. I mean, Tyler Brown just sort of got bustled out a lot of the time against GWS. Callum, that happens to him a lot, unfortunately, because of his size. Dacos isn't much bigger, and that's fine. You can play a few of them to get experience and all that, but you can't have too many of them. And right now, I think we have too many, so we're skewed too much toward youth. Your tip? I mean, who knows what's going to happen with Essendon? They had a week off the other week. They just lost to Carlton, but they really look like
It was a terrible game to watch, though.
Yeah, but that's because it was Carlton.
I don't think Essendon's form is all that good. We should win
100 points
by about 108.
I would likely.
No, I think we'll look. They'll drag us down to their level, no doubt about it. But I think we'll still comfortably win.
Okay, I think Essendon win by 26.
Oh, yeah.
Oh well, last time I tipped St
I know what you're doing. I know what you're doing here.
Yeah, it's good that one of us does.
As long as it works, I don't care.
Well, it hasn't worked in the grand final.
All right, so that's it. We've had about 84 changes coming in, and we're going to lose by 28 points.
I think the important thing is we show a good attitude out there and we communicate.
That's well. It. I think that's the important thing too. Is just to keep the old spirits high.
Especially we help those little defenders.
Yeah.
You know, run around.
Little defenders and old ladies crossing the road should be the goals for this week.
Well, I want to make jokes there, but I don't know who I would defend. Anyway, like us on like our Facebook page, like our YouTube thing. It's there, I think. Leave us some comments.
Like our range of apparel and
like our bear
underwear. Yeah, like the bear and the spider next to it.
What spider?
Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
No, we'll see you next week.
We'll see you out there.
Let's go, Woods.
One day it'll hit.
That'll be it. I think it's close enough. We win the game now.
Disappear again?